I never imagined betrayal could come wrapped in a smile. That morning had been peaceful, the kind of quiet day that makes you believe life can still be gentle, even after everything it has taken from you. I had brewed chamomile tea, the way my late husband liked it out of habit. The steam drifting through the kitchen felt like a soft blessing. At 61, I lived a simple life, alone but not unhappy. My friends always insisted I join their morning walks, but sometimes silence is the only company you need. Then the phone rang. It was Daniel. "Mom," he said, his voice warm, too warm. "Can you come over tonight? I want to show you something." My heart instantly brightened. My son had grown distant since his marriage, but moments like this, when he reached out on his own, made me feel like the world was right again. "Of course," I said, smiling. "Is everything okay?" "Better than okay, just to be here at 7. That little quiver in his voice, a quiver of excitement, made me imagine all sorts of things. A new job, a promotion. Maybe he and Elise were going to announce a baby. I held on to that hope like a fragile secret all afternoon. By the time I arrived, the sun had already set, leaving the sky painted with shades of violet and smoky blue. Their apartment building loomed tall and modern. Sleek glass, polished stone, the kind of place that looked expensive even from a distance. Elise opened the door before I could knock. "Maria, you're early," not a greeting, an assessment. She stepped aside without a smile. I stepped in. The air inside felt stiff, tight. The place was spotless in a way that suggested performance, not comfort. No blankets thrown over the couch, no smell of cooking, no softness. Just Elise's designer taste, white, cold, and impressive in the most impersonal way. Then Daniel walked in. He was holding a large bottle of champagne. "Mom," he emotion, Ecodexect claimed, his face lighting up. "I've been waiting for you." Warmth spread through my chest. "What's the occasion?" He exchanged a look with Elise, one too quick, too coordinated. "We bought an apartment," he said proudly. I gasped. "Daniel, that's wonderful." Elise raised her chin. "It's not just any apartment. It's in the new Aurora Estate complex." My eyes widened. Aurora Estate was known for its luxury units and breathtaking city views. I had seen ads online and instantly dismissed them, far out of anyone's reasonable budget. "You bought there?" I asked, stunned. Daniel beamed. "We wanted a fresh start." I hugged him, overwhelmed with pride. "I'm so happy for you." He didn't hug back right away. When he did, it felt stiff, distracted. I didn't think much of it then. "I wish I had. Sit," Elise said, motioning to the couch. Her tone clipped as always. "There's something we want to show you." I sat. Daniel placed a thick envelope in my hands. The weight of it startled me. Mortgage papers, receipts, documents. My fingers tingled with anxiety. "What's this?" I asked, trying to smile. Daniel sat beside Elise, their shoulders touching like a united front. "It's everything for the apartment," he said. "The mortgage contract, the payment schedule, you know, the usual stuff." "But why are you giving it to me?" Elise's expression sharpened like the edge of a knife. "Because you're paying for it." The room went silent. At first I laughed, thinking I had misheard. "What do you mean?" Daniel inhaled slowly, rehearsed, confident. "Mom, I've decided you should cover the mortgage." I stared at him. His eyes didn't waver. "Daniel," I said softly. "I never said—" "You always told me you wanted to help," he interrupted. "That you would make sure I had a good life." "Yes," I whispered, within reason. Elise crossed her legs, her voice oozing annoyance. "Most parents help their children buy homes. It's normal. You should be grateful we're letting you contribute." "Letting me contribute?" My pulse kicked against my ribs. "Contribute?" I repeated slowly. "Elise, this isn't contributing. This is paying for the entire apartment." She shrugged as though discussing a trivial chore. So, my voice cracked. "I don't have that kind of money." Daniel leaned forward, his expression sharpening. "We looked at your savings, Mom." My breath faltered. "You what?" "Last year, when you asked me to help fix your laptop. I saw your bank statements. You have enough." My jaw dropped. Daniel, that money is for my retirement, my medical care. I can't, you can, he said coldly, and you will. The envelope felt heavier. Dirtier, like a weight tied to my dignity. I'm not paying, I said quietly. Daniel's jaw twitched. Elise let out a small scoff. You promised? He insisted. I never promised anything. You did, he snapped, louder this time. You said you would help us build our future, that you'd make it easier for us. Why would you say that if you didn't mean it? Tears pricked at my eyes. Daniel, those were words of encouragement, not a financial commitment. You knew that. His face hardened in a way I didn't recognize. You're being selfish, selfish. The word hit me harder than anything Elise could have said. I'm being practical, I whispered. I can't give you something I don't have. Elise rolled her eyes. This is ridiculous. We expected better from you. Expected? Better, as though I owed them my life savings, as though my motherhood existed only as a wallet. A deep ache unfurled inside me. I'm sorry, I said softly, but the answer is no. Daniel stood suddenly, fists clenched. Fine. He grabbed the envelope from my lap and slammed it onto the table. If you won't help us willingly, his voice dropped, we'll have to make you. Elise smirked, satisfied. We'll be in touch. I drove home half, blind with tears. Every mile felt like a piece of my heart peeling away. I kept replaying Daniel's face, cold, unfamiliar, angrier than I had ever seen him. The image of him as a little boy flashed in my mind, running toward me with open arms, scraped knees, a missing tooth, shouting, Mom, Mom, as if I were the center of his universe. Where had that child gone? Had I lost him completely? By the time I stumbled into my house, my hands were numb. I sat at the kitchen table in the dark, staring at the shadows on the wall, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Surely they wouldn't actually. Surely Daniel wouldn't. The knock on my door, 3 weeks later, answered that question. A courier handed me a thick envelope. Maria Alvarez, yes, delivery for you. Inside were legal documents. Asterisk, asterisk, a lawsuit. Asterisk, asterisk, Daniel and Elise were suing me for asterisk, asterisk, $600,000, asterisk, asterisk. My legs gave out. I slid to the floor, clutching the envelope to my chest, shaking from head to toe. The child I raised, loved, sacrificed for, had just declared war on me, and the worst part. Somewhere deep inside, beneath the shock and heartbreak, was an even more terrifying pain. I didn't know if my son still loved me at all. The first time I walked into the courthouse, my knees nearly buckled. Its marble floors, cold and echoing, felt more like a mausoleum than a place of justice. Every step I took sounded too loud, too heavy, as though the building itself was judging me, whispering, Asterisk, how did you end up here? How did it come to this? Your own son, asterisk, the courtroom doors stood ahead, wooden slabs that looked impossibly tall. I paused, swallowing the tremor in my hands. Anyone passing by might have thought I was simply nervous. They couldn't see the real wound, the slow, breaking crack in my heart that hadn't healed since the lawsuit arrived. Mrs. Alvarez, I turned. My lawyer, Howard, approached with his leather briefcase under one arm. He was an older man, calm and reassuring in the way a lighthouse is during a storm. It's time, he said gently. I nodded, though I felt anything but ready. The courtroom was already half full. I saw Daniel immediately, seated at the plaintiff's table. He wore a sleek navy suit, hair combed sharply to the side, posture rigid. Elise sat beside him in a pristine white blouse, her face polished and calculated. When Daniel's eyes met mine, he quickly looked away. Not a flicker of remorse, not a flicker of anything recognizable. Something inside me twisted painfully. Howard guided me to the defendant's table. I sat slowly, my palms slick with cold sweat. The judge entered, and everyone rose. Judge Harrington was a woman in her late 50s, with eyes that could cut stone, sharp, intelligent, observant. She surveyed the room with a calm that radiated authority. As she took her seat, Daniel's lawyer stood. Your Honor, we are prepared to begin. He was a polished man in a designer suit and a gold tie clip. Someone clearly paid more than I earned in a year. He carried himself with confidence, the kind that came from knowing he usually won. I braced myself. ****, Daniel's testimony, ***. Please state your name for the record. Daniel Morales. Mr. Morales. The lawyer said, "Why are you bringing this lawsuit against your mother?" Daniel cleared his throat dramatically, lowering his gaze like a man carrying a tragic burden. "Because she promised us the money." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. He continued, voice trembling with well-rehearsed emotion. "Mom told us she wanted to buy us a home to help us start our life together. We trusted her. We moved into the apartment because she assured us she would pay the mortgage. Lies, all lies. I bit the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted blood." "And did she fulfill this promise?" the lawyer asked. "No," Daniel said, shaking his head slowly. She betrayed our trust. We're now drowning in debt because she went back on her commitment." A soft gasp escaped the audience bench behind me. Betrayed, he was the one my stomach twisted into knots. "And how much is your mother refusing to pay?" $600,000, he said firmly. Elise reached over and placed a theatrical hand over his. "We're just trying to build a future," she whispered loudly enough for the room to hear. I felt my soul shrivel. This wasn't my son. This wasn't the boy I raised, the boy who used to bring me dandelions and mud-covered drawings. This was someone else, entirely someone who saw me not as his mother, but as an opportunity. Someone coached, manipulated, or maybe worse, willing. Elise's testimony, Elise took the stand next, crossing her legs elegantly as though posing for a magazine. She gave the judge a practiced, trembling smile. "Mrs. Morales," Daniel's lawyer began, "can you explain your understanding of the agreement between you and your mother-in-law?" "Yes," she said, her voice a perfect imitation of gentle sorrow. "Maria told us she felt guilty for not supporting Daniel more when he was younger. She said she wanted to buy us a home as a wedding gift." I flinched. That conversation never happened. I whispered to Howard, "I know." He murmured, "But let them dig their own hole," she told us. Elise continued, placing a hand on her chest as though she were deeply wounded, that she had been saving money for years, and that she wanted to give us the apartment as a symbol of starting fresh. My jaw dropped. A symbol of what? Then their lawyer presented the first set of evidence, a stack of printed screenshots. Messages stamped with my name, messages I had never sent. Howard leaned over and whispered, "Don't panic. Let everything be shown. The judge is paying attention." I wasn't convinced. My heart hammered so violently, I feared the entire courtroom could hear it. Daniel's lawyer held up the papers. "These messages clearly show Mrs. Alvarez promising to pay for the apartment." He handed them to the judge. She examined them quietly, her expression unreadable. "This says," the lawyer read aloud, "Trust me, I will handle the mortgage. Just go ahead and sign." I stared in horror. The words felt like a weapon aimed at my heart. Howard rose. "Your Honor, we will address the authenticity of these messages later. For now, we request they simply be included for the sake of record." The judge nodded. "Noted." Elise smiled victoriously. I felt sick. ****, my turn, ***, when my name was called. My legs felt like they were filled with sand. Each step toward the witness stand felt heavier. I swore in, my voice barely audible. Judge Harrington looked at me with an unexpectedly soft expression. "Take your time, Mrs. Alvarez." My throat tightened. "Thank you." Daniel's lawyer approached. "Mrs. Alvarez," he began, "do you deny promising to pay for your son's apartment?" "Absolutely," I said. "I never promised anything of the sort." He raised an eyebrow. "So you're claiming both your son and daughter-in-law fabricated this agreement entirely?" "Yes," I whispered. They lied, the courtroom buzzed, the lawyer chuckled lightly, a condescending sound. Mrs. Alvarez, these messages came from asterisk your asterisk number. I lifted my chin. Someone forged them. Why would your son need to forge anything? He asked, sounding almost amused. Why would he sue his own mother without good reason? I swallowed, my voice trembling. Because someone is influencing him, and because people change. The lawyer's smile faltered just slightly. Judge Harrington leaned forward. Mrs. Alvarez, did you ever discuss housing support with your son? Yes, I said. General emotional support, encouragement, but I never, ever promised to buy them a home. And these messages, he pressed. I have never seen them before. They're fake, he smirked, convenient. I felt my eyes burn, tears threatened. But I forced them back. I would not break, not here, not now. When Howard began cross, examining Daniel and Elise, something shifted. He asked specific, pointed questions. Dates, times, context. Elise stumbled more than once. Daniel contradicted himself twice. Small cracks in their story, small but visible, Judge Harrington noticed. I could tell by the way her eyebrows drew together, by the small notes she took each time inconsistencies emerged. Hope, fragile, trembling, but alive, began to flicker inside me. ##***, the first turning point, ***, then came the final moment of the day. Howard stood. Your Honor, before we adjourn, the defense wishes to submit a preliminary request for digital forensic analysis of the messages presented by the plaintiffs. Daniel's lawyer laughed out loud. This is unnecessary. Howard continued, undisturbed. We believe the metadata in these messages is inconsistent with the timestamps and may not have originated from my client's device. Judge Harrington looked sharply at Daniel and Elise. Their faces changed, very subtly, barely noticeable, but I saw it. A flicker of panic, a tremor under the surface. The judge closed the file, in light of the unusual nature of this case. She said slowly, I find the request reasonable. The court will order a forensic analysis of the messages and devices in question. Daniel's head snapped up. Your Honor, that's Mr. Morales. She interrupted sharply. I have not finished speaking. He sat back, swallowing hard. We will reconvene once the analysis is complete. Court is adjourned. The gavel came down with a cracking finality that echoed through the room. I exhaled shakily. It felt like breathing for the first time in months. Daniel and Elise stormed out without looking at me. Howard placed a steady hand on my shoulder. This is the beginning, he said quietly, not the end. I nodded, though my body felt like it might collapse. Outside, when the cold air hit my face, I realized something. This wasn't just a court case. This wasn't just a misunderstanding or a family dispute. This was a storm, and it had only just begun. The week leading up to the forensic analysis results felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing the fall could kill you, but unable to step back. Every night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying Daniel's testimony, Elise's cold smile, the forged messages, the lies, the betrayal that echoed louder in the silence of my empty home. How could my son do this? How could the child I raised twist into a stranger? But it was too late to hold onto who he used to be. I had to face the man he had become. #****, the day of the results ****, when Howard called me, his voice was strangely calm. The results are ready, he said. We need to be in court in 2 hours. 2 hours. 2 hours until I discovered whether I had any hope at all, or whether the lies would strangle me into financial ruin. 2 hours until I faced Daniel again. My hands shook as I dressed. The walk through the courthouse hall felt like wading through thick air. People passed by me, their faces blurred and distant. In the courtroom, the tension was suffocating. Daniel sat rigid in his seat. Elise crossed her legs, tapping her nails on the table, her jaw tight. Their lawyer whispered aggressively to them, papers spread out like a fortress. Howard placed the forensic report on our table with a soft thud. Remember, he whispered to me, the truth has a way of surfacing. I wasn't sure anymore. Judge Harrington entered, and the room rose to its feet. Her face was unreadable. That frightened me. Court is back in session. She said, "We will review the forensic findings." The air thickened. Forensic specialist, a woman with sharp posture and the kind of calm that comes from absolute certainty, took the stand. She swore in, "Please state your findings for the court." The judge instructed. The specialist opened her report. In that moment, that silence felt like the longest heartbeat of my life. # asterisk asterisk, the cracks split open asterisk asterisk in our analysis. The specialist began. We examined the SMS screenshots submitted as evidence by the plaintiffs. I held my breath. We detected discrepancies in the metadata associated with the messages. Daniel stiffened. Elise's tapping stopped. The specialist continued, her voice steady and unflinching. Specifically, the timestamps of the messages were inconsistent with the device logs. Additionally, the formatting of the message bubbles is inconsistent with the operating system version on Mrs. Alvarez's phone. A murmur swept through the courtroom. Inconsistencies, incompatibilities, red flags. Judge Harrington leaned forward to clarify. Are you saying the messages did not originate from Mrs. Alvarez's device? That is correct, the specialist replied. The messages were created using third-party software designed to simulate text conversations. Elise's eyes widened slightly, just a twitch, but I saw it. Daniel's shoulders sank. It wasn't enough to clear me yet, not legally, but emotionally, something inside me loosened for the first time in months. The specialist continued, furthermore, we traced the source of the forgery. The simulation software was accessed from a device belonging to... She paused to flip a page. Mrs. Elise Morales, the room erupted, gasps, whispers, a sharp intake of breath from Daniel's lawyer. My heart slammed against my ribs. Elise froze, her face draining of color. Daniel turned slowly toward her. Shock etched across his features. Judge Harrington banged her gavel. Order, order in this courtroom. As the room fell back into silence, the judge's gaze turned ice cold. Mrs. Morales, she said to Elise, you may respond to these findings. Elise opened her mouth. No sound came out. She tried again, still nothing. Daniel whispered urgently, Elise, say something. But she snapped her head away from him, jaw clenched so tight her teeth must have been grinding. Judge Harrington looked unimpressed. Very well. The court will proceed. # asterisk asterisk. The unexpected witness. Asterisk asterisk. Howard stood. Your Honor, the defense calls a surprise witness. Daniel's lawyer shot to his feet. Objection. Surprise witnesses were not disclosed. It is directly related to the evidence presented. Howard said calmly, and the witness came forward only yesterday. Judge Harrington tapped her pen. I'll allow it. My heartbeat quickened. Then the courtroom doors opened, and in walked asterisk asterisk, Ethan asterisk asterisk, Daniel's childhood best friend, the boy who used to eat dinner at our house every Friday. The boy who used to call me Mama Maria, now a grown man with tired eyes and guilt tugging at his expression. Daniel's face paled. Elise, he whispered, why is Ethan? Elise didn't answer. Her entire posture had frozen. Ethan approached the stand. He didn't look at me, didn't look at Daniel. He looked at the judge. After swearing in, he took a breath that shook faintly. Your Honor, I came forward because I can't keep quiet anymore. Daniel whispered harshly from across the room. Ethan, don't do this. Ethan swallowed. I have proof that Elise pressured Daniel to sue his mother. I have recordings, messages, screenshots, all showing that Daniel was hesitant. But Elise insisted. My lungs tightened. Ethan continued, voice trembling. I didn't want to be involved. But Elise threatened to accuse me of harassment at work if I didn't help her alter some of the message timestamps. I didn't understand what she was doing until it was too late, and I couldn't live with the guilt. He glanced at Daniel then, brief, shattered. Dan, I'm sorry. It was the kind of apology that comes from someone who truly regretted their part in someone else's downfall. Judge Harrington looked furious now, controlled, judicial, but furious. "Mr. Morales," she said to Daniel, "do you wish to respond?" Daniel didn't answer. His eyes dropped to the floor, his face crumpled just slightly, as though the mask was slipping. Elise, however, erupted. "This is ridiculous," she shouted. "They're lying, they're all lying. She's manipulating everyone, Daniel, Ethan, everyone." Her voice echoed through the courtroom in wild, desperate waves. Judge Harrington slammed the gavel. "Mrs. Morales, you will sit down and remain silent." Elise fell back into her seat, shaking with rage. Even then, after being exposed, she glared at me like asterisk, I asterisk had wronged asterisk her asterisk. Hash hash asterisk asterisk, the turning tide becomes a wave asterisk asterisk. The judge took a deep breath. Given the evidence of forgery, manipulation, and coercion, this court finds that the lawsuit brought against Mrs. Maria Alvarez is, my heart thundered, based on fraudulent and fabricated claims. Daniel closed his eyes. Elise clenched her teeth so hard her jaw trembled. "The case is dismissed with prejudice." The judge continued, her tone sharp as a blade, "meaning it can never be refiled." I gasped. My hand flew to my mouth. "The plaintiffs," she added, "will be responsible for all legal fees incurred by Mrs. Alvarez." Another wave of whispers swept the room. My vision blurred. Relief, shock, heartbreak, and gratitude tangled inside me all at once. Howard placed his hand gently over mine. "You're free, Maria." But something inside me cracked again, not from sorrow, but from the realization that even exposed, even in defeat, Daniel didn't look at me. Not once. Hash hash asterisk asterisk. The aftermath in the hallway asterisk asterisk. When the courtroom emptied, Daniel finally approached. He looked hollow, lost, ashamed, but before he could speak, Elise stormed up, seething. "This is your fault," she hissed at him. "Your fault for being weak. You should have never let her fight back." "Enough, Elise," Daniel murmured. "Stop, no," she screamed. "You ruined everything." Then she spun around and pointed a shaking finger at me. "You'll regret this, old woman. The security guard stepped between us instantly. That's enough, ma'am." Elise was escorted out of the courthouse, still shouting in rage. Daniel watched her go. His face broke. "Mom," he whispered. I froze. It was the first time he had called me Mom in months. He looked at me with eyes red and wet. "I'm so sorry." Tears filled my eyes, but I didn't move toward him. "Not yet." He stepped closer, voice cracking. "I never wanted this. I didn't know how to stop her. I didn't." His words fell apart. "Daniel," I whispered, "you had choices." He nodded, sobbing silently. "I know." And for the first time, he truly did. I didn't hold him, not yet, but I didn't walk away either, because sometimes the first step to healing is simply standing still long enough for the truth to settle. The storm was breaking, but the aftermath had only begun. When the gavel came down for the final time, something inside me broke loose, not in pain, but in a kind of release so profound I could feel it all the way down to my bones. The case was over. The lies were exposed. The storm had finally collapsed around us. But standing there, clutching Howard's arm for balance, I realized something. Justice did not feel like victory. It felt like grief, because I had won, yes. But the cost was the quiet truth that my son, the child I raised alone, the boy who once clung to me like a lifeline, had allowed himself to nearly destroy me. Hash hash asterisk asterisk, the ruled consequences asterisk asterisk. Judge Harrington's voice still echoed in my mind as I walked out of the courtroom. Given the plaintiff's fraudulent actions, emotional distress caused to the defendant and the attempt to manipulate this court, the plaintiffs are hereby ordered to pay all legal fees and a compensatory amount of $85,000 to Mrs. Maria Alvarez. Gasps had filled the room when she announced the additional compensation. It wasn't the money that stunned me. It was the acknowledgement of my suffering, of the months of fear, of the betrayal, But the judge wasn't done. Furthermore, she added, this court refers Mrs. Elise Morales to the district attorney's office for potential criminal charges related to fraud. That moment is when Elise's face went blank. It wasn't anger, it wasn't panic, it was pure disbelief, as though she'd spent her whole life believing her beauty and confidence could shield her from consequences. She looked toward Daniel, expecting him to protect her. He didn't move. He didn't even look at her. For the first time, Elise seemed truly alone. "You can't do this to me," she whispered. But the judge already had. The collapse Elise filed for divorce 2 weeks later. Or rather, she served Daniel the papers with a single line scribbled in the margin. "You're weak. I'm done." I heard about the divorce from Ethan, who visited me afterward to apologize again. He told me Elise drained the joint savings before leaving, taking nearly everything Daniel had worked for. It should have made me feel vindicated, and yes, part of me felt satisfaction, but it was not the sweet, triumphant flavor I'd imagined. It was bitter, sharp, a reminder that everything had shattered. Daniel lost his job soon after. Not because the company cared about the lawsuit itself, but because word of Elise's fraud spread online after she was officially charged. People talk. Internet whispers grow sharp teeth. Daniel had become collateral damage. He moved into a tiny rented room above a laundromat. He stopped answering friends' messages. He barely spoke to anyone. He was living the consequences, but suffering them alone. And that reality weighed heavily on me. My new life, The settlement money allowed me to do things I had put off for years. I fixed the old roof. I paid off lingering medical bills. I bought myself a small greenhouse where I planted herbs, tomatoes, and jasmine, the scent of home. For the first time in a long time, I felt physically safe, financially stable, emotionally maybe not whole, but patched enough to stand on my feet again. People in the neighborhood would stop me on walks. I heard about the case. They would whisper, "You're so strong." Was I? Or was I simply a mother who had survived the unthinkable? Some nights, I still woke with tears on my pillow. Other nights, my chest ached with a quiet, stubborn hope that Daniel wasn't lost forever. Justice had been delivered. But healing was a different story, and forgiveness, that was the hardest, not because I didn't want to forgive, but because I didn't know if he deserved it. The knock at the door, 3 months after the trial. On a rainy evening, when the sky looked bruised and swollen, someone knocked on my door. I opened it and froze. Daniel stood there, soaked from the rain, hair plastered to his forehead, clothes wrinkled and mismatched, like he'd dressed in the dark. He looked small and heartbreakingly familiar. "Mom," he breathed. The word was fragile, like a glass about to shatter. I stepped aside silently, letting him in. He sank onto the couch, elbows on his knees, hands covering his face. His shoulders trembled. The silence pressed on us until he finally spoke. "I lost everything." I didn't respond. I wanted him to continue. "She left, took my savings. My job let me go. My friends, I don't even answer them anymore." He wiped his face, looking destroyed. "I know I deserve all of it." His voice broke. "But Mom, I'm so sorry." The apology I had imagined for months was finally here. He looked up at me, then eyes red, cheeks streaked with rain and tears. "I don't want anything from you," he whispered. "I just needed to tell you the truth. I was weak. I let Elise control everything. I thought if I said no, she would leave me, and I couldn't take the shame of failing again." His voice cracked. "Elise said you owed us, that after Dad died, you weren't there for me emotionally, that you could afford it. She twisted everything, and I let her. I betrayed you." He buried his face in his hands. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it." I sat across from him, feeling decades of love and months of pain collide inside me. I saw not the man who sued me, but the little boy who cried over scraped knees. The teenager who hugged me after his first heartbreak, the young man who still called me when he couldn't sleep. How could I erase all those moments? I forgive you, I said softly. Daniel froze. Slowly he lifted his head. But, I added, and his breath caught, forgiving you doesn't mean I trust you, and it doesn't erase what happened. He nodded, choking back tears. I know, and rebuilding this will take time. Another nod. But if you are willing to work, really work, then maybe one day we can find our way back. He pressed his hands to his face again, sobbing in relief. Thank you, he whispered. Mom, thank you. And there, in my quiet living room, with the rain drumming softly on the windows, something shifted. Not a return to what once was, not a sweeping, magical resolution, but the first small step of something new. A fragile, trembling beginning. #**, the sweetest revenge, ***. People say revenge tastes sweet. Maybe for some. But for me, my revenge was not winning the case, not the compensation, not watching Elise's empire crumble. My revenge was quieter, warmer, softer. It was this. I survived. I rebuilt my life. I found peace again. And I stood strong enough that my son finally could find his way back to me. The sweetest revenge was not bitterness. It was healing, because in the end, the strongest kind of justice is not the one delivered in a courtroom. It's the one you build inside your own heart. And that is exactly what I chose.